Coming up on Global Business, the Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China Central Committee holds a meeting to analyze and study the economic work of 2024. China's passenger vehicle sales maintained strong momentum in November, surging 26% from a year ago as new energy vehicles drive growth. And with time running out at COP28, the head of the UN Climate Summit urges countries to ink a deal on the fate of fossil fuels. And welcome everyone to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong in Beijing. The Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China Central Committee emphasized on Friday that efforts would be made to enhance economic vitality, prevent risks, and maintain the positive momentum of economic growth. The meeting was chaired by Xi Jinping, General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee, and held to analyze and study the economic work of 2024. It said the focus next year will be on strengthening counter-cyclical and cross-cyclical adjustments of macro policies with a flexible, appropriate, targeted, and effective approach to monetary policy. Additionally, there will be a strong emphasis on increasing domestic demand, implementing reforms to drive high-quality development, and expanding high-standard opening up to foreign investment. There will also be a focus on leading the development of a modern industrial system through innovation, as well as improving the resilience and security of industrial and supply chains. Well, the Central Committee of the CPC has also held a symposium with non-CPC personages to solicit opinions and suggestions on this year's economic situation and economic work for the next year. Xi Jinping, General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee, presided over that symposium on Wednesday and delivered an important speech. Now, during the meeting, Xi acknowledged the intricate and complex landscape of China's economy and expressed gratitude to the non-CPC members for their valuable reports, suggestions, and advice on various issues. He encouraged them to continue contributing their insights towards achieving high-quality development. The non-CPC personages fully agreed with the analysis provided by the CPC Central Committee and appreciated the planning and considerations for next year's economic work. They also shared their opinions and suggestions on different sectors, including the deepening of foreign economic and trade cooperation. All right, so for more on the latest CPC Political Bureau meeting and what it means for the Chinese economy, I want to bring in Chen Jiahe, CIO at Novum RK Technologies. Jiahe, thank you for joining us. So how do you interpret the messages, the signals, and the priorities sent from the Political Bureau meeting in terms of how China's policymakers will support economic growth in 2024?
Hi, Michael. Good evening. Definitely, China still wants economic growth. As we are still a developing economy, the economic growth is still a top priority. But we can see that the economic growth is not the only target for China in the coming year, which is to say the growth figure itself is not the only concern. China is now more concerned with the quality of the growth. And this quality of economic growth can include many aspects. For example, the smooth and stability of the growth, the stability of the policy, the environment protection, the prevention of financial crisis and risk, the increasing of domestic demand, the stimulation of global trade. All these things have been discussed in this meeting.
Yeah, and Jiahe, the meeting said that China should strengthen counter-cyclical and cross-cyclical adjustments of macro policies for next year. So what might that mean for the policy mix going forward?
When we talk about policy making, the best standing point would be the long-term view. That means policies have to counter and go through the cycles, as you mentioned. And from this point of view, we can foresee the economic policy next year will be relatively smooth. I don't think we can expect an overflooding of liquidity into the economy or a massive scale of interest rate cut, which can boost the growth in a short term. But in the long term, also go through the cycles, there will be inflation as a result. Rather, can expect a more smooth set of economic policies, and we can see more detailed policies which aims at detailed problems.
Jiahe, the meeting also said that work should be done to increase domestic demand and create an environment where consumption and investment promote each other. So how do you interpret that goal?
This shows that China is still putting the domestic demand as a priority. Currently, there are a few reasons for taking this action. First of all, the percentage of consumption in China's economy is still not that large when compared with major economies in the world. This means by putting the attention to consumption, there is a larger chance to boost the economy. Second, the global trade has been pretty sluggish this year. Although the Federal Reserve is stopping its interest rate hike as the inflation is now under control in the US, we are still not too sure about how the global trade will be in the coming year. Therefore, putting more effort on the consumption can be a very good backup plan.
And Jiang He, of course, the next major meeting for China's top leadership on the economy will be the Central Economic Work Conference held later this month. That conference is going to map out a more detailed action plan for economic work next year. So what might this latest Political Bureau meeting tell us about what we can expect at this year's Central Economic Work Conference?
I think for the Central Economic Work Conference, there will be more detailed plans coming out when compared with this meeting on Friday. And with all these details, I think we can pay special attention to a few areas. First of all, the policy towards the property market is vital. The property market is taking up a large share of the economy. Its status can have a strong influence on economic performance. Second, the policies toward financial market is vital, as the financial market is closely linked with the property market, and it is also the foundation for economic stability. Furthermore, the policies toward consumption and environment protection can also be very important, as these two areas are currently the very important topics of the Chinese economy. Also, the global trade is an important area. We might be able to see more policies to support the opening up, as well as attracting global capital to invest in China.
All right, Jiang He, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks for your thoughts. As always, Chen Jiang He, CIO at Novum RK Technologies. Thank you, Jiang He. Well, China's State Council Information Office recently held a briefing for reporters where Tang Wenhong, China's Assistant Minister of Commerce, shared updates on the work being done in the Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone. According to Tang, the focus of these efforts is to ensure full alignment with high-standard international economic and trade rules, aiming to improve the business environment and deepen reform and high-quality opening up policies here in China.
We will promote high-quality opening up policy to improve goods trade convenience, deepen financial reform, reform digital trade service to enhance international cooperation, protect intelligent property and improve labor rights, and enhance risk regulation to create a fair, transparent, and efficient development environment.
Well, China's northeastern region is known for its fertile soil and industrial legacies. It's also home to the country's only border island county next to the high seas to the Korean peninsula. Changhai County, sitting east of the city of Dalian, consists of almost 200 islands. Its biggest island has recently received an electricity upgrade. Our Cheng Menfei reports.
A song from 1980 called These Changshan Islands a string of treasures in the depth of the Yellow Sea. The cold ocean water harvests top-notch sea cucumber and abalone, and the charm of its beaches is also attracting tourists in recent years. The local government wants to build a 5-star hotel on the main island, but it hit a roadblock.
As we were pushing the project forward, we found out that electricity was the biggest barrier to development. There was not enough. This hotel could not start.
The archipelago's some 200 islands and 70,000 residents have been relying on a single 35-kilovolt submarine cable extending from the port city of Dalian for the past 43 years. Once or twice a year, it will be damaged by a passing ship's anchor, requiring costly repairs.
This submarine cable can no longer support the corresponding economic development. So the Dalian Power Supply Company invested more than 200 million yuan, or about $28.5 million to carry out the transformation of the submarine cable.
In March this year, work started to lay a new 66-kilovolt cable under the seabed.
A submarine cable is more difficult than other projects. For example, from processing the cable to transportation to finally putting it in the sea, everything has to be done on time. Delay in any step would cause significant economic losses.
After 8 months of construction, the upgrade was completed in November.
After the renovation, the entire power supply capacity has doubled. Changhai County is a border island, so this cable not only has livelihood and economic value, it is also important for national defense.
Our whole county was ecstatic to have the new cable. It's a very good big project.
The new cable is equipped with sensors to alert the operator of any abnormality, temperature, movement, and boats passing above it.
Before, once the cable was laid on the seabed, it did not have a monitoring system, which means we have no idea about its operation status. But now we're keeping track of the submarine cables in real time.
On shore, there are cameras monitoring activities above the water. The submarine cables are just one of the many upgrades to the island's infrastructure. This year, construction began for a sea bridge linking the archipelagos to the city of Dalian, marking another milestone in their development. Chen Mengfei, CGTN, Changhai County in the city of Dalian, Liaoning Province.
And a look now at what else is making headlines across China. China's State Administration of Foreign Exchange has announced the expansion of reforms for cross-border trade and investment facilitation, extending them to cover the entire country after initially being implemented in 17 provinces and cities. The China Association of Automobile Manufacturers said over 2 million units of passenger vehicles were sold in the country in November. That is up 26% from the same period last year. Sales of new energy vehicles grew nearly 40% to 850,000 units. And the Chinese Foreign Ministry has reduced visa fees for citizens from certain countries by 25%. The fee reduction will be applicable to nationals of countries such as Thailand, Japan, Mexico, and Vietnam, starting from Monday, and will last until the end of next year. It's still to come here on Global Business. With time running out at COP28, the head of the UN Climate Summit urges countries to ink a deal on the fate of fossil fuels.
The global convergence for climate action is underway.
As world leaders, policymakers, and environmental champions
convene for a pivotal dialogue to safeguard our planet.
Join CGTN for COP28 in Dubai as the world transforms commitment into action for a sustainable planet.
All right, to the United States now, where all eyes will be on that key jobs report. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics is set to announce non-farm payrolls data and the unemployment rate for November. So let's get to our John Tarrant in New York for more. John, Good morning. Good morning. Why is this report so crucial?
Good morning. Crucial, Michael, because we are moving into an era now where Wall Street thinks we're about to have interest rate cuts. Not interest rate pauses, which we've had the last couple of months, or indeed interest rate hikes, which of course we've had for the last 20 months or so, but interest rate cuts. Now, if economists are right and the number of jobs created is somewhere between 161,000 and 183,000, if it's either in line with that or fewer than that, then Wall Street will take that as a sign. It will rally very strongly that there is indeed an interest rate cut coming next year. Now, the history to this is that the FOMC committee, the Federal Reserve Committee that looks at interest rates in America, meets next Tuesday and Wednesday. They meet all day Tuesday, then Wednesday morning they meet, they have a lunch, and they make the decision at 19 hours GMT on the 13th, next Wednesday. So the November jobs report, or the non-farms jobs report, which is coming out in about 16 minutes' time, is very important when it comes to assessing inflation in America. Too high, and that's inflationary, and that's not what the authorities want here at the moment. They are seeking fewer jobs to be created. So remember that number, 161,000 to 183,000. That's the range that economists are forecasting. They also want lower wages, and this is really what the central bank looks at more than anything, because even if you have increased jobs, as long as the wages aren't going up too much, they want them to go up, but just not too much, because that's inflationary, then they will be happy with that. Now, there are some very strong signs that things are going the way of the authorities of the central bankers. For example, this week we had the private jobs report that was way lower than anticipated. Economists thought 130,000 jobs added. It was 103. And the jobs report, the number of job openings in America, down now to a 2-year low. You've got to go back to March 2021 to find it standing at 8.7 million, which it was in October. And the weekly job number out yesterday, 220,000, slightly elevated, but no one seems to be worrying too much about that. And indeed, there's a forecast that today's number, when it comes out shortly, could indeed be slightly elevated. As long as it's only slightly elevated, then that is okay. So the question now on Wall Street, which is where I am talking to you from, just around the corner from Wall Street. The question now is, will there be a recession or not? We've been forecasting a recession for the last 2 years. It's never materialized because of the strong jobs data. And so now we're in a situation where Wall Street thinks, the way the economists phrase this is that there will be a hard soft landing or a soft hard landing, which means the economy may well come down in 2024, but it'll bounce up again pretty rapidly. So the question is, will there be an interest rate cut? The central banker, the chief, Jerome Powell, speaking in Atlanta last week, said it was far too soon to talk about rate cuts, far too soon. But he has to say that, Michael, because he's the central banker. He can't say anything else. Wall Street believes there will be a rate cut coming as early as March, and they base that on the fact that there's a presidential election coming up in November. Wink, wink, know what I mean? The futures markets at the moment are completely flat ahead of all this information, and the data comes out in about 13.5 minutes. Michael?
All right. Many thanks for that report. As always, our John Terra for us in New York. Thank you, John. Meanwhile, Hollywood actors voted on a new contract with major film studios, which brought a historic labor dispute officially to an end. The new contract had nearly 80% of the union members who participated voting in favor. Our Edith Tianshan has more from Hollywood.
Actors in Hollywood have formally ended 6 months of labor unrest in the entertainment industry. Members of the SAG-AFTRA union voted overwhelmingly on Tuesday in favor of a new 3-year contract.
I think having almost an 80% yes vote with almost a 40% turnout from our members, that's really unprecedented for any kind of contract where it's not just a unanimous chorus of yeses.
The vote brings an end to the 118-day walkout by actors and other performers, which followed a separate writers' strike earlier this year. Union leaders are confident the gains made in their agreement made it worth the trouble.
No one has ever had $1 billion in gains in one contract term before, not us or any other union in this industry. It has huge improvements in a whole number of areas besides AI, like casting, self-tapes. We broke the industry minimum wage pattern. We established the streaming bonus fund for the first time. So many things that our members said they wanted and needed are addressed in this contract.
The contract is not without issues, as some members would have liked to have seen stronger protections against the use of artificial intelligence.
And the reality is, there are members who've spoken out a lot over the last 3 weeks about their concerns, primarily about artificial intelligence. I'm very mindful of, and I consider their concerns legitimate. I think those concerns are mostly directed at the question of trying to just stop AI or ban AI or block AI, which from a strategic point of view, I don't agree that that's feasible or practical.
The vote marks the ramping up of filming on Hollywood sets once again, but the full recovery of the movie industry is expected to take months, as the prolonged production shutdown took out thousands of jobs in the entertainment industry. It is Tianshan, CGTN, Hollywood.
And turning now to the UN's climate change conference of COP28 in Dubai, where Sultan Al Jaber, the president of COP28, has urged countries to reach a consensus before the conclusion of the 2-week summit. He emphasized the need for nations to step out of their comfort zones and collaborate on unresolved issues. One key area of focus is the handling of fossil fuels, which are the primary contributors to climate warming emissions. Around 80 countries are advocating for a COP28 agreement that includes a commitment to phasing out the use of fossil fuels in the future. Meanwhile, young people are making a significant impact at the COP28 climate talks in Dubai. UNICEF is partnering with China to empower students and bring young climate activists and innovators to that conference. Their goal is to showcase their work and perspectives to world leaders. Our Adel El-Maroui has more.
Youth and children are the most vulnerable to the impact of climate change. The UN says that 1 billion children are at extreme high risk. COP27 in Egypt last year saw a landmark achievement of establishing the first youth and children pavilion in the climate talks. Here in Dubai, the initiative continues.
And what we do as UNICEF is really to provide that platform to young people, not only that we prevent even worse emissions, that we protect them against climate change, but also that they are allowed to participate in decisions that affect their future. That's why this youth pavilion is so important, because this is every child's right. This is about their future. Now, children should not be asked to solve the problem that world leaders collectively have generated, but they should be able and enabled to put pressure on those world leaders to take decisive action right now at COP28.
This is a platform for advocacy and, most importantly, showcasing youth-led innovations for engaging with climate challenges.
Sargassum is a floating seaweed that's found in the Caribbean and areas like that. It washes up on shorelines and chokes the shoreline, decomposes and releases a lot of harmful gases. It also acidifies the ocean water. So our solution uses forks to rescue any sea life that's trapped in the sargassum. And we then utilize green waste from hotels and other businesses in order to create organic compost with the sargassum.
The climate issue related to sustainable development, it's about intergenerational equity. So the young generation will be the next generation of leaders, in 20 or 30 years. And in that time, when we already enter into the race to net zero, we are actually leading the society to that target. And also I'm very happy to see that youth are being more active in this process, because we are not just calling out to world leaders, we are actually using our research to impact this process.
UN programs are in place to engage more students in climate action, and UNICEF says cooperation with China in that regard has been commendable.
We have very active collaboration with the government of China, and that is really important, not only because there are 300 million young people and children in school in China. So just imagine what we can do if we can harness the power of 300 million young people and equip them for a green future.
The UN's children's body is concerned about the impact of climate change on schools. A UNICEF report suggests that when schools shut down for at least 3 months because of climate episodes, like the floods that took place in Libya's Derna, that could shrink the lifetime earnings of students by 15% when they grow up. That's why UNICEF has launched programs to build climate-resilient schools to make sure that youth continue their work for climate change. Adel El-Maroui, CGTN, Dubai.
And the International Maritime Organization has set a goal for net zero emissions in the shipping industry by the year 2050. China, being a major shipping nation, is rapidly progressing towards that objective. Our Wu Bin explains.
This shipbuilding factory belongs to China State Shipbuilding Corporation, the world's largest shipbuilding group. The facility is responsible for constructing China's first domestically built large cruise ship, the Adora Magic City. The ship employs the world's first set of AC system that use carbon dioxide as a refrigerant, a much more eco-friendly approach than traditional freon. And this is just one of the many new technologies on board. At the largest global shipping industry exhibition held in Shanghai this week, many of the green technologies used by Chinese firms have attracted the attention of companies from around the world. This Chinese company presented a system called carbon capture. The system is specially designed for almost 10,000 ships that cannot use new energy as fuels.
The diesel carbon capture system was developed to address carbon emissions from ships. It uses a special absorbent to capture and separate carbon dioxide from ship exhaust gases. It would then be liquefied and transported to land for sequestration or reuse.
Decarbonization, as an unstoppable trend, has become a hot topic among international companies as well.
The awareness in the marine industry is increasing, and that we are more relevant than we have ever been before. So it's a good time and a good time for business. China is the right place to be.
In the pursuit of decarbonization, China should better utilize its robust industrial foundation, strong resilience, and the strength in technological research in recent years to provide more technological solutions for the global maritime industry, especially for the goal of decarbonization.
Statistics from the China Association of National Shipbuilding Industry show that from January to October last year, over 45% of the new shipbuilding orders received by China were for green ships, and this percentage continues to increase. Wu Bin, CGTN, Shanghai.
The three-day World New Energy Vehicle Congress was held in Haikou. The event features two plenary forums focusing on the low-carbon development and new ecosystem of the auto industry. Our Aaron Liu has more.
The 2023 World New Energy Vehicle Congress is being held in Haikou, Hainan Province. The conference has attracted nearly 1,000 representatives from the automotive industry and related industries from more than 20 countries and regions. Wang Gang, the president of the China Association for Science and Technology, delivered the keynote speech.
应该说，这几年全球新能源汽车的市场
We need to continuously expand open cooperation and create a new pattern of global development in the automotive industry that is mutually beneficial.
The latest report from the market research firm Catalyst points out that in the first half of 2023, China's automobile exports reached 2.3 billion, maintaining its advantage in the first quarter and retaining its position as the world's largest automobile exporting country. Europe has become a hotspot for exports.
There are still Germany is still continue to be one of the large investor into the China economy, but so there are collaboration of bringing technologies, companies investing into China because they see the opportunities within, and the German companies do want to collaborate with the Chinese.
其实大家看到，就是在过去3年，无论国际的形势如何变换。
No matter how things change internationally, international companies have been ramping up their investments in China, especially in the global automotive industry, whether it's in the complete vehicles or components. From this perspective, we have great confidence in Sino-German cooperation and in the Chinese market.
In 2021, Europe became the top destination for China's exports of new energy vehicles. At the same time, the proportion of European new energy vehicles in the Chinese market has also increased, rising from 2.4% in 2019 to 6.1% in 2022.
根据就国产化的这些电气架构。
We need to play to our strengths, adapt to their developments, and refine the definition of our products to best suit their future applications in the new workshop. Maybe that's how we can turn our advantages into a real edge.
A report released at the conference believes that thanks to advantages in products and technology, as well as the increased investment by Chinese independent car companies in channels, research and development, and localization of products and new energy vehicles, will continue to be the core driving force for the growth of China's automobile exports. Aaron Liu, CGTN, Haikou, Hainan Province.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong here in Beijing. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next time.